Yes, everybody, welcome to the Babylon Bee interview show. I'm Kyle.
I'm Ethan.
And with us is everyone's favorite anarchist troll, Michael Malice.
Michael Malice. He's back.
It is so great to be here.
Michael Malice, we had him. He was one of our first guests ever. We interviewed you from Kyle's garage. Way back.
Yeah, way long ago. A year ago when we were working in my garage.
Yep. We're in our third space now. We were in Kyle's garage, then we're in an office building. We just moved into our own little spot now, so yeah, it's cool. And now we're doing video. First video interview with Michael Malice.
Yeah, exciting.
Oh, that's cool.
All right, so that's all the lame introductory stuff.
Yeah.
So sexualization of children.
How about that, huh?
That's happening.
Yep.
A lot on Netflix for one. They're fine with it.
Yeah, can you give us a brief review of your favorite Netflix movie, Cuties?
Well, this isn't new. As you guys probably are aware, in 1989, the corporate press has been depraved for a very long time, and I use that term advisedly. In 1989, there was this huge controversy because the NEA, the National Endowment for the Arts, was funding a Mapplethorpe traveling exhibit. Robert Mapplethorpe was a prominent photographer. And some of the photographs, I do not advise people to Google this. Some of the photographs in this exhibit were things that were like men shoving bullwhips in certain parts of their body. But if you just read about the exhibits, you would be like, oh, Jesse Helms and all these people are such homophobes that they don't think government money should be spent on these photographs. And from the way you would read the articles, it would sound like Cameron and Mitchell and Modern Family like holding hands on a bench, and that Jesse Helms is outraged that there's two men on a bench holding hands. But the other thing that was in this exhibit was child pornography. There was one 4 or 5 year old girl flashing her genitalia at the camera, and there was also a fully nude, naked little boy. And if you read any articles to this day, Washington Post will talk about it's dazzling and amazing. If you read any articles to this day, it'll always be described as this triumph of art, free speech, over these, inbred backwards hillbillies with their stupid values and prejudices. So this Cuties thing is not new. This has been going on for quite some time. And I think it behooves especially conservatives to not only learn their history, but not take their opponent's framing of history at face value.
So was that a 2 thumbs up for Cuties, or?
2 lollipops and a van.
Oh dear. So what are some ways conservatives get that wrong, the framing of history? We do tend to play into, it does to like the left-right's history, and then we kind of play it. We respond rather than reject.
Right. So then it would be like, oh no, it's not homophobia. Why should the government be funding the arts at all? Blah blah blah. And then it's like, you go look at those photographs. Challenge that person, as Maxine Waters says. You go up to them in the department store and the gasoline station and say, do you think it is appropriate for government money to be used to have a traveling exhibit where a 4 or 5 year old girl is flashing her genitalia at the camera? Why or why not? And then when you put it in just those simple terms, they will be like, well, they start flailing about.
You had a recent tweet that said, we're about 1 week away from concern over child sex trafficking being equated with Nazism.
Nazism? I always said Nazism. But I guess there's only one I in there.
You just corrected me and then corrected yourself?
Nazism.
Don't ever forget how depraved the enemy class is. What's the enemy class?
I mean, the same people who are going to call you members of a conspiracy theory for thinking that Jeffrey Epstein exists.
Exists?
I mean, we're exists. Yes, we're told with a straight face that the idea that there's any sort of international child sex trafficking is a widely discredited conspiracy theory, that the only people who hold this are loons, or this is being cynically exploited by the Trump administration to further his election campaigns, while simultaneously we have video, Amy Rohrbach from ABC News talking about how they had him for a while, how they had Prince Philip, I think his name is, from the royal family. They had Clinton. They had all these prominent celebrities visiting Epstein. No one knows how Epstein made his money. He's this Wall Street, huge, extremely wealthy, but they can't find anyone on record. I think it was Vanity Fair, that far right fringe outlet, Vanity Fair, where they said they couldn't find anyone who's done deals with him. Like, okay, where is he making his money? One theory, and this is perhaps false, is that he would secretly set up these prominent people with underage girls, film them, and then be like, oh, by the way, she's 15. Now I'm going to be managing your portfolio. Here's how it's going to be. I don't know if that's true at all. I'm saying I've seen no more plausible explanation for where this guy got his money. And they're perfectly content to pretend this didn't really happen. And, Ghislaine Maxwell just being arrested, too. They discuss her in one hand, but then pretend, well, this isn't real with the other. So it's the thing I'm more concerned about, and I'm not trying to be glib here, is the assault on our nation's children from the public school system. I mean, this is a daily assault on children's self-esteem, sense of self-worth, sense of identity by design. They're there to break children. And one of the things I've been berating conservatives for the last couple of years is you hand over your kids to be raised by your enemies on a daily basis and just shrug your shoulders. This is just unconscionable to me. Now, I understand some people don't have a choice, and that's fair, but at the very least, fight. Dudes, don't just shrug your shoulders. This is the future of our country.
But what if the kids get homeschooled and then come out weird?
I'd rather they be weird than broken. And actually, I know you're joking. I used to have that belief that you homeschool these kids, they come out, all sorts of messed up. And then I met a ton of homeschooled kids, and it blew my mind because it really disturbed me and saddened me what we take for granted from children, because these homeschooled kids weren't they could eye contact, they could talk to adults on their own level, the way they comport themselves with a sense of pride. And I'm like, wow, like school teaches you, public school especially, that the adults are a source, something to fear, that they're there to kind of judge you. The teacher judges you and punish you, reward you accordingly. They're there to make you feel like you don't know anything, that the only way to receive knowledge is from that mediocre person in the front of the room. These are very, very disturbing things that are, by design, a function of public school.
You recently tweeted, okay, in my experience, once you meet homeschooled kids and see how they comport themselves around adults, your contempt and loathing for government schools will be endless. That's quotable.
Endless contempt and loathing.
Endless contempt and loathing.
Is that how you feel?
You will literally never.
Because you're a homeschooler, and I'm a new homeschooler, so.
We started homeschooling kind of by accident, like just because it was better for our kids. It wasn't like something we did to be these weird, religious nuts or something. And we just found it was so much better for their personalities, for them becoming who they are. And I don't know. Talk, Michael.
I'm surprised that you guys can be so flippant. I don't know, because I'm not a dad. So I guess like once you see the difference and you realize what's being done to so many children by design, and that it's happening right now as we speak, I find it disturbing to the extreme. And like that, the fact that there's so many people who will tell you with a straight face still on Twitter and other venues that like it's good that children are bullied because it builds character. And it's like, what other circumstance on earth other than prison, which schools are you literally trapped in a building with someone for years who is putting you through, or marriage maybe, who's putting you through sustained mental and physical torment. Yeah. And I don't just mean the child bullies, I mean the teachers. They are there to break you and remold you, and under the euphemism of making good citizens. So when you see the alternative and how much these kids are more like put together and can hold themselves, and you realize, wait a minute, what you had thought had been the norm is actually by design and is not how kids normally are. I find it like Roddy Piper and They Live. Like it just traumatizes me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you kind of go. I mean, we both went to public school, so and then I go. On one hand, I came through it and like I don't know why I turned out the way I did. I don't know why I didn't turn out ideologically the way they wanted me to. So I guess I have the hope that my kids won't. But then on the other hand, I see most of the time.
How's it,
It doesn't
working
go
out?
that way.
How's it working out
Doesn't
for
work.
you?
Not working out so well.
I don't even mean the ideology. I just mean their personality, how they carry themselves, their sense of self-esteem, their sense of self-worth,
Right.
Their maturity. These are all things that when you see homeschooled kid versus public school kids are extremely different. And it's just very shocking and very disturbing to me, as I said.
Right. I used to get beat up for wearing the wrong shoes. That never would have happened in a homeschool. Like my mom wouldn't have beat me up for wearing the wrong. Well, maybe, but not the same way. She'd buy me the cheapest shoes, like because she's poor, dirt poor, and you had to. If you didn't have Nikes or Reeboks, you'd get picked on bad in my school.
True.
That was an anecdote.
I found that a lot of the public school thing is like your local teachers. Like I lucked out and got some really good teachers that taught us good, history and. We learned the horrors of communism.
I lucked out and got teachers that taught history.
Yeah.
I got a teacher that I've told the story before that taught us the horrors of Nazism and communism. And, and I don't know if that's being taught today. So I think a lot of it is that we had a good experience, like you're saying, and then we just assume that that's still happening, Well, I don't know that you had a good experience, but you turned out okay, right? You're like, I turned out all right.
Yeah, and I don't know why I did. But also on the weirdness thing, I tell my kids this, like, the worst thing to be in junior high is weird, but in all of life, being weird is pretty great. It's like one of the best attributes you can have. It makes you really strong. And if you can make it through junior high being kind of weird, then you're kind of a badass.
Donkey.
Sorry, you're going to have to flower about that. But yeah, so I encourage, embrace your weirdness, children.
Unless it leads to jars of pee, like some people like to name.
I mean, there's always, there's a line
There's
for
a
everything.
line. Ethan's always right on the line.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait, you're talking about my jars of pee.
Yes, I am.
He just made a reference to your jars of
because
pee.
I was on his show and that was weird. I had never even met the man, and I'm confessing to like living in an attic with jars of my own urine by like 40 minutes in. I don't know. He just kept asking me more probing questions.
I somehow I knew on sight this guy had jars of pee.
I just look like jars of pee guy.
He has that look about him.
That's my Christian contemporary band. Jars of pee.
Porpoises. Donkey.
What the heck? You're making it way worse.
That was the song. It was the old Jars of Clay song.
Well, yeah.
Flood, right? I don't know what we're talking
Jars
about.
of Clay? Is that Jars of Clay back there in that CD collection you got behind you?
Heck no.
You don't have Jars of Clay? They were pretty good. They were almost as good as Nirvana.
Disgusting.
What do you got back there?
Yeah, I've got hundreds. Like,
Do a random. Pick a random.
there you go.
Nice.
Devo.
Track number 1, We're All Devo. Track number 3, Mongoloid. Track number 4, D-Stiff.
So you're hanging in there with the CDs. I appreciate that about you.
Yeah, you listen to
What
those?
am I supposed to do with them? I have so many, and some of them are rare. I don't know what to do with them.
I have mine in a giant binder that I never open.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't get rid of them because I'm a hoarder. Not like, bodily fluids hoarder, but just stuff I've bought hoarder.
I think
More context to that.
the hipsters.
There isn't.
There's no context that makes that better. The hipsters have moved on to cassette tapes, and now cassette tapes are cool, like vinyl was.
Oh, wait, vinyl cassette tapes?
No, vinyl was cool,
Oh, vinyl was.
and then cassette tapes became cool and retro. So
the
maybe
vinyl's
CDs.
back now. I just heard that vinyl is outselling CDs now.
Oh, I'm sure it is. Because if you're going to buy the
for the first
physical
time
thing, why
since
not
the
get the
70s
big
or
cool
whatever.
one? Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
This is not the kind of topic for Michael Mouse, though. He needs,
I don't know.
we need corporate press.
Do you hate cops?
Hates us, yes.
I just had to get some controversy. I don't know.
Yeah, very much so.
So yeah, we got the whole Breonna Taylor incident. You've talked a lot about that, and I know that's one of the more controversial. My understanding is it was like you don't even no knock, you just go in without even knocking.
How is that allowed?
Yeah,
It's unconscionable, even for the point of view of the cops.
yeah.
If you knock,
kinda
you crash,
dangerous.
break down someone's door after midnight, you should expect them to open fire. It's unconscionable. The only circumstances I can think about is if there's a hostage situation, or a child is in imminent danger, or someone is tied up or something like that. That's sure you don't announce yourself. But oh no, they're going to flush drugs down the toilet. What you do and what they do is they turn off the water supply. And at the same time, no one's life is worth a kilo of blow or a pound of weed, neither a cop nor a citizen. Actually, that's not true. There's lots of people whose lives are worth a lot less, but metaphorically speaking. So they talk about it's amazing how we're trained, and I'm glad I can talk to Christians about this because you do have respect for human life. We're trained that if you call something a war, you can do whatever you want. And like if a lot of people become orphans or widows, well, it's a war. And it's like you don't just get to say this word and then like really bad things happen to an entire nation and you're like, no. So and to domesticate that and be like, well, it's a war on drugs. What do you expect? People not to be murdered? It's like, yes, that is what I expect. I expect nonviolent people should not be afraid of the Gestapo coming into their house in the middle of the night and guns blazing. And I made this line before, I think it was on your show, that even Stalin had the courtesy to knock. That was the whole thing under communism. You were scared that knock in the middle of the night that they were going to come. And some people are saying on my Twitter, they go, well, maybe she shouldn't have broken the law. That's not what due process means. That's not what freedom means. If a cop decides you've broken the law, they don't get to come into your house with their buddies after midnight with their guns.
Yeah.
So you don't have
unless you're Roger Stone.
You don't have a thin blue line tattoo? Is that what you're saying?
I just had this number on my forehead I was born with, 999. I don't know what it means.
Sad.
Yeah, I'm very glad that increasingly conservatives are like, this is not right. It's not worth anyone's life having some drugs.
What about a no-knock raid on Netflix's headquarters to round up everybody who had anything to do with Cuties?
Well, Cuties was French. Didn't they just import it and change the poster to make it more pornographic?
The marketing people, the people who imported it, all that. Would you be in favor of that?
I think, in all seriousness, the problem with this child trafficking is it's international. So Netflix is really kind of a non-player here. There was an article, I believe, in the New York Times, and because none of us think in these terms, it's hard to kind of wrap our heads around it because it's so depraved. Where there was some, I think it was FBI or a CIA, a division meant to track this down, and they didn't even have the resources to track down people who are making videos of infants being assaulted. And we don't. If we can wrap our heads around Lolita, maybe, you know what I mean, like a 10-year-old, an infant, is pure demon, whatever the adjective is, from hell.
Hellish, demonic.
Yeah, demonic. Yeah,
satanic.
We don't understand this kind of evil.
So are you a Pizzagate believer?
Pizzagate aged better than Russiagate. If you look at those emails,
I prefer pizza to Russia.
If you look at those emails, they're clearly not talking about pizza. Now, I don't think necessarily they're talking about children, but if you're emailing someone says the pizzas were really upset today, it's code for something.
Well, I don't know.
Did you see his Instagram, by the way? The guy's Instagram?
My food.
Whose Instagram?
James Elisantis, the guy who ran that pizza place.
Mm-mm.
It's literally like some of the photos were like of a 6-year-old girl scotch taped to a desk. So it's like, okay, I don't necessarily think that this is, child sex predation, but it's like, give me even a weird explanation for what this is, because I don't understand it.
Yeah, maybe he's a kid's YouTuber. Have you ever seen those YouTube videos for kids? They're like taping people up and
there's a whole controversy where these videos are coming from, and they're all very, very weird. Elsagate, they call it.
Elsagate. You got all these gates. You're the Gateopedia. You know all the gates.
I believe in private property, so you need as many gates as possible.
Chesterton's fence.
Yeah.
Mm. Yes.
Mm.
G.K. Chesterton.
Yeah.
So are you Q? Who's Q? Are you Q?
I don't know anything about Q.
Can you tell us what QAnon is? Because we don't know what it is.
We're completely lost.
At this point, we're too afraid to ask.
I think Q is Barron Trump.
Wait, Q is a person?
Q is supposed to be a person
but
that's going to...
Isn't there like on James Bond a guy, a Q person?
Yeah, but it's not the same.
It's not the same thing?
Yeah. So
That's a fictional.
I'm hesitant
Here.
to discuss this because I'm going to get a lot of flack about it from some
weird.
very, very, very bright people who have thought out ideas and not a surplus of emojis and hashtags in their Twitter handles. But let me just say, there is a theory
Okay.
based on QAnon, who is supposedly a covert deep state operative, who is dropping these messages on places like 4chan and predicting, supposedly, things that are going to be happening, which is all leading up to Donald Trump unveiling a huge pedophile ring within the federal government and mass arrests.
So they're like dropping these messages. They're like, all right.
Right. So they'll be like in code, and then it'll be like, on April 14th, watch the White Rabbit. And then April 14th, something happens with the Energizer, and it's like, well, see, well, it's a pink rabbit, but it's basically the same. So it's this, it's
symbol of whiteness.
and they're very, very intense and very, very driven. And I think they're very, very delusional because I'm very skeptical that any of these horrible people are going to be held to account.
So it's some guy. It could be like a 12-year-old. You don't even know who it is, and they're posting these messages, and then people are deciphering them. And there's just a big thing around it. That's what that is? I didn't even know that.
Yes.
So where do they post this stuff? Is this like 4chan or something?
I know 4chan was one of the major sources. I don't know if that's still there. The other thing is because QAnon, obviously the name Anon is anonymous, there's nothing to preclude anyone from posting a thing and saying that they're QAnon.
Mm-hmm. So it could be a bunch of guys. It's like Banksy.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. If there was like one account that this is Q. But it's like a random.
4chan doesn't have like a username thing. It's not like a Facebook.
All right.
We could do some.
We could make up some and post it.
Yeah.
Got a message from Q,
We could
guys.
or we could just post some. See what happens.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Hey, you can't write Q without you.
That's right. Well,
Can't,
you only need one letter.
like Shaq. Shaq doesn't have a U.
Yeah, it does. It's Shaquille.
Oh.
It's short for
That's a
a
good point.
word with you. Huh?
I've been owned with facts and logic.
I thought modern day Ben Shapiro.
But Ben Shapiro is modern day.
Yeah.
That's the joke.
Oh, okay. I've been owned once again. So what's the answer on this drug war thing? Do we just legalize drugs, make meth lounges on every corner, do
Starbucks of
buy
meth?
heroin at 7-Eleven?
We have that already. We have meth lounges. They're just legal pharmaceuticals. I mean, meth is speed. Meth and Adderall are the same. It's just one you approve of legally and one you disapprove of legally. So, 7-Eleven, you can buy narcotics right now. It's just narcotics that the government approves of. And I think as most people increasingly are aware, one of the big issues with drug abuse is dosing. You don't know what you're getting, how pure it is. And if you're taking, like, look at beer, right? If one day you're having a beer and you have a beer every day, and then the next day it's moonshine, but you taste the same, you can't tell the difference, you're dead. You didn't want to die of alcohol poisoning. You just have no way of determining the alcohol content. So it's the same thing with these hard drugs. It's not that these addicts want to die. It's that they take a certain amount, and then the next day they get really good stuff, and it's pure. It's not cut. And then they're dead. Or the heroin fentanyl, which is extremely disturbing. I find it very sad how many people have no sympathy for those who make different choices for them or even bad choices. And it's like, well, if you don't want to die, you shouldn't do drugs. I'm like, I'm not glad to write people off from the human race just because they're doing drug addicts. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're hurting themselves a lot and it's awful, but it's not as bad as, let's suppose, a child sex predator.
Everything, like, when a thing becomes legalized, one of the things they do is they make energy drinks out of it, like weed. They made weed energy drinks.
Really?
We had Coca-Cola. That's how Coca-Cola got its name.
So wait till they start making meth energy drinks. That's going to be wild. Meth Star. Methster. Monster meth.
Methster.
Yeah, Methster. I get you. Meth Star, Methster.
Or like Rock Star. The Rock takes on a new meaning.
Crack Rock Star.
Crack Star.
Crack Rock Star.
No,
we need to have a brainstorming.
Mellow yellow.
Mellow yellow.
On mellow.
You just drink one can of it and you are just like, strip off your
My
clothes,
house is really clean
flip
now.
over a cop car, just eat a puppy. It's going to be crazy. But that's better. That's still less violence than the actual war on drugs. So,
Right.
I'm hearing you out. I started watching those documentaries. They got all these crazy documentaries about the war on drugs, and El Guapo, or no, that's not one of them. El Chapo.
That's
and
from the Three
all these
Amigos.
guys. Yes, from the Three Amigos.
Ethan has trouble separating fiction from reality sometimes.
It's a jar, is a bathroom.
El Guapo is a
I
big
watch it
scary
through the
man.
yellow jar, so it's hard to see the TV.
It's like Plato's cave
like-
of urine.
Yeah. Everything's in sepia. Yeah. But yeah, to see the extent of the violence that goes on in like Colombia and stuff. It's there's one hearing about it kind of was one thing. To actually watch what has happened, like it's insane.
Well, what about just being arrested and going to prison? I mean, let's suppose someone is a drug abuser. Like, who does that help? It's not cheap. I mean, I don't think someone who's a drug abuser, even a burglar, suppose they steal from their family. Like, they do really horrible things. Is it really beneficial to anyone that they're locked in a room with a rapist and a murderer? Is this the same phenomenon? I don't think so.
Just give them gloves that give them no more fingers or something, so they can't steal as easy. Just imprison their hands. That's what they used to, right?
Sure.
We could just create
Cut 'em
smaller prisons for things. I'm not going to get in detail.
Like a
rapists.
rapist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's all of them. We could create much smaller, more efficient prisons that actually attach to people.
Look at the personal computer. ENIAC was the size of a prison cell, and now it's on a laptop.
Yeah, there you go.
We just solved the drug war.
We solved so many problems. I just
And
never
the
thought
war
of
on
that.
onanism.
Oh, what?
So since you're anti-cop, you're Black Lives Matter, right? Like if we were to, so we're gonna raise
One
our,
or the other.
me and Ethan are gonna raise our fists and say Black Lives Matter, and we're gonna force you to do it.
Do it.
Black Lives Matter.
You're a racist.
Black Lives Matter is white people stuff. Did you hear that the guy who founded CrossFit got kicked out of his company because he's like, we're not doing this. This is for white people,
Yeah.
and they kicked him out.
Were they all white
It's
people?
absolutely amazing. Or I mean,
Assuming it's CrossFit.
spiritually, yeah.
So we can't get you
Spiritually white
to,
people.
we can't get you to say Black Lives Matter and raise your fist.
Man,
I'm not a big fist guy.
Oh,
what do you raise?
I
I don't know where I was going. You raise your ire. So what do you think about all the masks and plagues?
yeah. You're not wearing a mask, sir, and it's making us feel unsafe.
Oh, I am.
I wear a mask of human skin.
I already know that the next time I do one of these podcasts, like in person, like Tim Pool or something like that, I already want to go there in a hazmat suit.
Oh man, that'd be amazing.
That'd be awesome.
Or like that stuff from, I think it was in Aliens, where they had the one where there's like the light inside of it
Yeah.
and they're breathing like
Yeah.
Darth Vader. Like, it's really, I want to figure out how much one of those costs. I think this Max stuff is nonsensical at this point. Especially for young people. I think it's like AIDS. If you know you're part of a population that is especially vulnerable, it is your responsibility to take precautions, because you have to assume the other people aren't. Mm-hmm. And you can't expect everyone, you're playing Russian roulette with your own life. And I think people who are at risk know this. I think I was very tired a couple weeks ago. I'm in Brooklyn, and I was talking to my friends, and I said, maybe I have it. It just clicked. Maybe I have COVID. You know, fatigue is one of the symptoms. And my friend goes, it's not possible. We haven't had it in like 2 months in New York. I'm like, okay, whatever. We're talking about. And I look, New York has like 100 cases a day and like no deaths for 2 months. So the fact that de Blasio is still having the city in many ways on lockdown is unconscionable. And it is harder and harder for my anarchist. What's that?
100 cases a day in New York? That's like nothing.
I think it's like 100. I know. New York City. And it's harder and harder for my anarchist brain to empathize with people who see political action as anything other than pure criminality.
What do you think
Because
is
this I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the mom and pop businesses are the first ones to get hurt.
Yeah.
The immigrants are the first ones to get hurt. You come to this country, you have a little restaurant, dry cleaner, fruit stand, whatever it is. And you don't have 6 months to sit on your butt and not get revenue. It's horrible.
What do you think is the motivation, like the idea that if the government is overplaying its hand, you get kind of accused of being a conspiracy theorist or being anti-government if you're like, oh, they're just telling us it's all for our own protection. But What is the ulterior motivation, if, in your point of view, if they're actually being corrupt in this?
I think it's not that they're corrupt. I think they're responding to incentives. And there's a huge incentive for them to overreact because if there's any deaths, it's going to be blamed on them. So let's try to shut down all economic activity. It's a lot easier to hand wave away a depression than it is to hand away mass death. So let's completely err on the third side of caution, and then we can say with a straight face, we did everything we needed to do to fight this pandemic and never have to worry about the consequences. I also tweeted this out not long ago, and it's very disturbing for me to say this, but I predict it's going to be like 2023 or 2024 when we all start to have the conversation about what consequences these politicians have to have personally and what that would entail. Because until people face personal consequences for their choices, they will absolutely continue to do the same thing. And why wouldn't they?
Yeah. Yeah, there's no situation where they pay a price for if they over whatever.
Well, it's
that word is.
I mean, it's a total difference.
Overreach.
It's just
Overreach.
a difference in ideology, in that a lot of these politicians, they just feel like they have to do something. You know, you see this with the gun control debate, where there's a school shooting and they're just like, ban, and then they just like throw a dart at a board. Ban, barrel shroud, the shoulder thing that goes up, or whatever. So,
well, it's not even that. I mean, I don't know if some people are old enough to remember after Timothy McVeigh blew up Oklahoma City, the building there, they started talking about gun control. There were no guns used. He used fertilizer. It was a bomb. So having an agenda means you have the same
control.
Yeah, having an agenda means you have the same conclusion regardless of the data that's coming in. And the conclusion always is, we want your guns. Well, the best argument against gun control is gun proliferation, which is thankfully happening at a very high rate in this country.
Well, I, for one, look forward to the future when we just have Walmart and Amazon. And all the small businesses are gone. I don't have to.
And you have
no
to be
choice. I don't have to
be in
think.
one of their militaries.
And there's mandatory conscription into the Walmart army when you're turn 18.
I love this. The anarchist utopia. See, you dummies, you want to choose between Democrats and Republicans. A free society is choosing between Amazon and Walmart.
I think Kyle's he's an anarchist, kind of.
I'm close.
He's pretty close. I just don't think that deeply. I'm scared to go there. So what about this? I actually haven't seen this, but I guess Paul Rudd did like a public service announcement about wanting you to wear a mask. He's dressed as a skateboarder.
Yeah.
Did you like that?
Did you think that was cool? Is that good for our money to be going towards that kind of government ad?
I think it's very smart on their part because it works in two ways. One is, this isn't disturbing. This is someone who Paul Rudd is universally liked. There's this meme about how he doesn't age, which is true. He ages very well. So they're playing on that. And it's like, oh, it's silly. But it's also useful because instead of the criticism of the ad being this is creeping totalitarianism and disturbing, you look at it, you roll your eyes, and you think, oh, it's cringe. So if they look at it in that regard, you don't realize, wait a minute, let me take a second back. I've got my negative reaction. But then you think about it and go, oh, this is much worse than cringe. This is really almost Soviet, where they rope in these popular figures and use them to promote their propaganda. And I mean that quite literally.
Yeah, it feels like progressives always kind of see themselves as like these rebels, or we're the subculture, we're going to go take back the power. And it's like, well, you guys own Hollywood and the government institutions and all the major corporations. I logged onto Facebook and it's like, click over here and see what you can do to help fight climate change. There's a big message on my screen.
Have you ever tried to Google the conservative view on a thing? It's practically impossible. Like, I'll try to look up a news story and just try to get the other side.
It'll just give you the criticism of it.
It keeps bringing it back to the left-leaning style. It's really hard to find. Yeah.
I did a piece in one of my shows. There was a bill passed in South Carolina, Louisiana. There was a pro-life bill. And, the pro-choice people were up in arms. And they had a quote from the woman running maybe the local Planned Parenthood or whatever, Parents for Choice, whatever it was. And she said why this bill was wrong. There was never a quote from the pro-life person. Like, if this bill passed, I want to know what is the reason for it. Like, what is the other perspective? And there wasn't even a pretense of having it there, which I'm sure is not new for you guys to understand. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, as I always say, the depravity and malfeasance of the corporate press is without cessation.
Amen, brother. Your lips.
Don't we all?
Copyright 2020. Babylon Bee.
What do you think of...
I signed a rider. Everything I say in here becomes your property now. Darn it. I got stung by the bee again.
Sad.
That bee stings more than once.
The big Jim Gaffigan blow up on Twitter. What do you think of that?
I didn't. Oh,
Did you
when
see that?
he just like when he went full TDS.
Yeah. You think?
I think
what made him snap?
I think there's a lot of people who have been trained to believe that if they parrot the correct things, people will listen to them and or give them accolades. And if they keep doing it for months and they keep getting mocked, the output isn't what they were promised. This caused them a lot of psychological stress. I'm telling you, I'm up here. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you what to do. I'm telling you what to think. This is as obvious as night and day. How are we even having this conversation? The man is clearly a, white nationalist, Nazi, very pro-Israel Nazi, hardcore Zionist, blah blah. And it's the fact that you don't even feel comfortable defending your point of view because you shouldn't have to. And then when people are like, no, you're wrong, it's distressful, I think. I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's just bizarre because he's always kind of come off as, and he's even said this, like he's, I got friends on the right, I got friends at Fox News, like it's just, and then I just think I'm just curious what drove that sudden.
I think they're probably also scared that Trump's going to get reelected.
Yeah.
I think they're telling themselves, all right, I'm going to white knuckle this for 4 years. This was a historical mistake. Hillary was terrible. We blew it in 2016. I have faith in America. America's going to do the right thing. They're going to vote this idiot out of office. We can pretend it never happened. We go back to normal. And when that doesn't look to be the case, given that they nominated Weekend at Bernie's, that's going to also freak you out because that wasn't the deal. The deal is you get 4 years, then we forgive you for your stupidity and mistake in electing this jerk. And then you do what you're told, like good peasants. And then we move on with our lives. So it's kind of like when you're in an abusive relationship and the wife all of a sudden doesn't want to get hit. You don't understand because that was the deal. I get to do what I want to you and you're terrible and you accept it. And now you're telling me you're not terrible. I shouldn't put my hands on you. This doesn't make sense. This was the plan. It's a similar situation, I think.
Do you vote? Who are you voting for? Trump?
Oh, I don't believe in voting. No,
Trump
you know
train
that.
2020? No?
I do not. I gave money to Biden.
You did?
Oh, yeah, because he's such a source of humor. I'm like, during the primaries, I'm like, I want to see him literally pooping his pants on stage and the corporate press telling you how this is healthy.
Well, you're getting your money's worth.
Oh, yeah, I certainly am. Did you see both him and Harris yesterday refer to the Harris administration?
Oh, he did too?
Within hours of each other. They both did it.
Oh, gosh.
It's amazing.
Oh, golly. Wow.
I'm looking forward to the corporate press once again showing their malfeasance and depravity by like commenting on Kamala Harris's shoes.
Yeah.
Historical.
Every single thing she does is historical.
Wait, remember when Obama wore a tan suit, it was only Republican sites who flipped out. And how dare they? And these backwards Republicans. Oh, she's in Timberlands. My God, what have we done to deserve such an amazing edgelord?
Kamala Harris, edgelord.
Yeah.
What's that?
What's an edgelord?
Well, I don't think she's an edgelord facetiously, but an edgelord is someone who feels the need to very much try to be edgy on an online context, and it's often embarrassing.
We should have gotten Michael to teach us about all these internet terms,
glossary,
like a glossary of Twitter.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Have you ever gotten ratioed?
Every day, right?
No, I never get ratioed. I've gotten ratioed once. I don't remember what it was. It was the first time. It was like all the Boomercons came at me after something I said, which was satire, and you guys must get ratioed much more than me.
We've almost never gotten ratioed. Really? Maybe one time I made fun of Catholics, and they ratioed us.
Okay. What about the one this Chick-fil-A one with the?
No, even that went huge. The article went huge. We always get more shares than we get angry.
By the woke Christianity.
The woke is a very small crowd compared with
they act big. They got a big voice.
They're just loud.
So I remember you saw one. I was like, oh my gosh, Michael, why would you say it's true? It was
why
about
would you
George
say it?
Floyd. It was like,
Oh no.
it was.
Oh no, I had a warning label on that one. I said the next tweet will be a troll. Please feel free to retweet it. And then it says something like, I'm just saying that if George Floyd had never done drugs, he wouldn't be in the situation. He'd still be alive today or something like that.
Something like that,
yeah.
At the very moment, nobody should say that.
Satire.
Satire.
You got to put it in parentheses.
Let me find the exact quote. It was really funny. People got
Just say it.
upset.
Satire.
Yeah.
So you probably get a lot of boomers that follow you because you mock the left. And then
they're upset that I'm not enough of a patriot in those words.
Yeah.
and then you slam back at them and
I don't. I stopped because engaging with Boomercons is self-trolling. Oh, this is the one. This is the tweet. 6,000 likes. Let's be honest. None of this would be happening if George Floyd just obeyed the law. So
what's the ratio on that one?
No, it's 6,000 likes, 600 comments.
Well, how many retweets?
1,000.
Oh, so not ratioed at all.
Not ratioed at all.
Huh. Wow. What's a Boomercon?
A Boomercon
Sounds like a convention.
We need to have like a little definition. pop up on
Boomercon
the screen every
2020.
time.
Everybody come
A
on down.
Boomercon is someone
don't have
who
to, Dan.
thinks telling a college student about Ronald Reagan and that Martin Luther King was a Republican and the Democrats are the real racist is going to change their minds and save this country.
You're the
And
real
if
KKK.
you feel the need to tell people that we live in a republic, not a democracy, you might be a Boomercon, to put my Jeff Foxworthy hat on.
Do you have a bunch of these Jeff Foxworthy things?
Yeah.
If you think telling an African American doctor that they're in a plantation is going to get them to vote for Trump, you might be a Boomercon.
What about if you've got like a "Don't Tread on Me" sticker on your truck and a "Thin Blue Line" sticker?
No, that is not the Boomercon.
Oh, that's not a Boomercon. Oh,
No, that
See,
could
I'm
just
not
be a
good at this.
conservative or a conservatarian.
I'm trying to. What is the essence of the Boomercon? That's what I'm trying to.
I think the essence of the Boomercon is a complete inability to understand how their enemy operates and a complete inability to persuade and a focus on being frustrated and give speeches at the drop of a hat. Like if you constantly point out that the press is being hypocritical, what happened? When the press was objective, the press was never objective. This isn't hypocrisy. They have an agenda. They know what they're doing. And if you just kind of shrug your shoulders and like throw a tantrum, that's very Boomercon behavior.
So maybe is it like an assumption that there was this norm, like everything was good, everything was good until recently, and then the left ruined it?
Correct. It's like, oh, Hollywood, we need to take back Hollywood. Hollywood was run by literal communists. What are you talking about? Reagan cut his teeth by weeding out communists from Hollywood in like the 30s and 40s, not when you were a kid.
Me and Kyle actually got invited to be featured guests at Boomercon.
Featuring Kyle and Ethan of the Babylon Bee keynote
speakers. On another note,
It's called "Taking Back America." That's
I
our
always
speech.
shiver when I hear the term
They
cut
sure
your
to bring
teeth.
up talk about Lincoln a lot.
Yeah.
So is the Lincoln Project run by Boomercons?
Or
No, the
16,
Lincoln
19?
Blunt Project is run by syphilitic grifters.
Syphilitic
You
grip.
have so many great phrases.
That sounds like
You should write a book.
That's like something Tigger would say. Syphilitic grifters. Well, the wonderful thing about syphilitic grifters. Syphilitic grifters are a wonderful thing.
Michael, do you want people to buy your books or follow you on Twitter or anything?
Yes, I do. YouTube.com/Michael Malice Official. Michael Malice on Twitter. But actually, in all seriousness, Dave Rubin, who I know you guys are at least somewhat friendly with, he has a site on malice.locals.com, and this is a much better alternative to Facebook because you have a community of people that you know aren't going to flip out, and you're going to have a good time. And it's kind of taking the place of Facebook from me and many other creators. So Scott Adams is on there. I'm on there. So just go to malice.locals.com, and we have fun making fun of jerks, including myself.
They invited us. We'll have to join.
Gotta do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, everybody else, we're throwing you out the helicopter, and subscribers,
Ooh, nice.
we're going into the subscriber
We're
portion.
gonna take Michael into the subscriber portion and bring him to Jesus.
Let's do it.
All right.
Coming up next for Babylon Bee subscribers.
These are two types of child exploitation. The rated R version is Cuties. The rated PG version is Greta Thunberg.
Yeah, what's your biggest like anarchist cliche? What's the closest you get to being like?
I did shoot McKinley. Can I make what cocktails?
Do you make any other kinds of cocktails other than Molotov?
Well, if he's on edibles right now, we start talking about God with him. We'll be able to convert him. You already know what happened.
It never made sense to me. Why did Christ have to die to redeem mankind? Like, who's putting that burden on God? Why can't God just snap his fingers?
Enjoying this hard-hitting interview? Become a Babylon Bee subscriber to hear the rest of this conversation. Go to babylonbee.com/plans for full-length, ad-free podcasts. Kyle and Ethan would like to thank Seth Dillon for paying the bills, Adam Ford for creating their job, the other writers for tirelessly pitching headlines, the subscribers, and you, the listener. Until next time, this is Dave DeAndrea, the voice of the Babylon Bee.